let's take a look at our top selections for
Hi everybody, Mike Beer here. We got a couple of stakes races at Aqueduct this weekend, a couple of short fields in these stakes races as well. Let's start with Saturday's Jazil, $100,000 purse for older horses. They're going to go 9 furlongs on Aqueduct's main track. Here's the field of 5. It's a very short field. I guess, if you're looking for a silver lining, it is a race where you could make, a reasonable case for 4 of these horses at least. The number 2 there, you can see Fame to Famous is installed at 50-1 on the morning line. He looks at least that price in this kind of a race. But the other 4 are all horses that you could make some kind of a case for. I mean, Tenderfoot is going to be the 4th choice in this race. He can't take as much money as the 1, 4, or 5, but Tenderfoot is not a horse who's impossible in this race. He has things working against him. He's never been this far. He's stepping way up in class, but this horse's form has really improved since Charlie Baker claimed him last summer at Saratoga. He got a little bit of a layoff, and he's been back for his last 3 starts through the fall and winter of 2020 and into his first start of this year on New Year's Day, and he's really improved. He's won all 3 of those starts, most recently with a 94 Beyer speed figure, winning his entry-level allowance condition. Again, he's stepping way up in class, but this horse has been in very good form, and, it wouldn't be a total shocker if he won this race, but it's not going to be easy for him to do. Let's take a look at the main contenders in the race. You can see that the morning line favorite on David Aragona's morning line is Backside of the Moon. He's 7-5 on the line, a horse who's exiting a career best performance the last time we saw him in December. And listen, he's just in really good form right now, and that's why he's the morning line favorite, I suppose. Mr. Buff is the second choice at 9-5. To me, Mr. Buff, whether he goes favorite or not in here, he's the horse to beat in this race. He has all the back races. He has the credentials to just be better than these horses, and he's already handled Backside of the Moon a couple of times throughout his career. The problem with Mr. Buff is it just feels like after getting, just being so good for so long, and even, coming into 2020, 3 straight stakes wins before COVID forced the shutdown in race, and he came back off the induced layoff there in June. And personally speaking, I just don't think he's been in, nearly his best form since he started back in June. His commentators off the layoff certainly wasn't bad. He was second with the 98 Beyer, but to me that, just wasn't close to his best race. And, since then he just hasn't quite looked like he's been, up to his best form. Obviously the Suburban, the Whitney, the Cigar Mile, those greatest stakes races, you want to be, a little bit easier on him for. Those are races he just can't win. But, even when he won the Empire Classic, it wasn't, a dominating fast performance. Last time, over a track that he really likes, a distance that he really likes here at Aqueduct, and is trying to defend his Alex M. Robb title against New York Breds, and he just couldn't get it done. There was no excuse for him in there. He was no match for Bankett through the stretch of that race, and he settled for second. It wasn't a great performance. He's going to have to do a lot better than that. Again, I think if he runs his best race, if they all show up here and run their best races, Mr. Buff will win here. But you just have to be concerned about his recent form a little bit. And that leaves him perhaps vulnerable to the 2 horses that we'll look at right now. This is Musical Heart, who's the number 1 in this race, and Backside of the Moon, the 5. These 2 horses have squared off in each of their last 2 starts, both of those races here at Aqueduct over this distance. And here's the most recent one, the Queens County, back on December 19th. And once again, it's going to be Backside of the Moon coming out on top in this race. The Queens County Backside of the Moon got a great ride in here. We're looking at the stretch run here where he's just going to turn away Musical Heart and pull away with a big 106 Beyer speed figure. But he really won this race at the start, Backside of the Moon did, because he broke very alertly, and Jose Lezcano did the right thing. Once he broke on top, he sent him right to the front, let this horse take control of the pace, and Backside of the Moon did the rest. Really impressive performance. Again, 106 Beyer speed figure. This is a horse who just turned 9. He's run 47 times in his career. That's his first triple-digit Beyer right there in the Queens County. It was a day where I felt like the rail was a good place to be, and he got to the lead on the rail and exploited that advantage. A really impressive win, but he was also good 2 starts back. He was recently reclaimed by Rudy Rodriguez. He's 2 for 2 since Rudy reclaimed him. He also won during a prior stint out of Rudy's barn in 2019. He also won his final 2 starts for Rudy. So it's 4 wins in a row out of the Rudy Rodriguez barn. This horse just feels like everything's going right for him at this stage of the game. He doesn't need the lead. Obviously, he took the lead last time. He doesn't need the lead to be effective. The distance is no problem for him. That Queens County last time, his second career stakes win, the first career stakes win all the way back in 2018. He won this race, the Jazil. So he's a 2-time stakes winner over this distance at Aqueduct. He's just a really good horse. He's been good for a long time, been good for different trainers. He always shows up and runs. Musical Heart has fallen behind Backside of the Moon in each of those last 2 starts. I feel like you could make a pretty convincing argument that he might have run the better race 2 starts back over that sloppy track. Musical Heart just got caught up contesting the pace with a horse in Winston's Chance, who's, no superstar, but he's a pretty good horse. And Musical Heart got locked up on the pace with him, had to fight him off, and then Backside of the Moon sort of came and took advantage a little bit and ran him down. Last time, Musical Heart just didn't really have that much of a chance. Backside of the Moon got to the front, never looked back, and Musical Heart just couldn't catch him. So his last 2 races are fine. He couldn't win either one of them, but he's actually run well both times. It's 6 dirt races in a row for Musical Heart where he's been either first or second. So, maybe his best race isn't quite as good as either the 4 or the 5 in here, but this horse isn't bad at all. And he could get a different trip this time, breaking from the rail. It would be far from an upset if this horse was able to beat Mr. Buff and or Backside of the Moon in this race. But as we go to the picks, you can see I'm just going to stick with the hot horse and Backside of the Moon here. I really, I put Mr. Buff second. I really don't want him in here. I get it. His best race is going to win this race, but I'm just not a fan of his recent form. So I didn't want him on top. I could have gone either way with the 1 or the 5, I suppose, but I'll take Backside of the Moon on top. It just feels like he has more options in here, and his best race is actually really, really good. So I'll take Backside of the Moon in Saturday's Jazil. Don't forget, it's race number 3 on Saturday, so it goes a little bit early. The approximate post time, 1:20 Eastern Time. Good luck.